Joining me now from Las Vegas, Democratic presidential candidate and senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Senator, under these conditions, it's horrible to bring you in to talk about this, but thank you for doing so. 2 mass shootings within 13 hours. You tweeted just a few minutes ago, quote, "Mr. President, stop your racist, hateful, and anti-immigrant rhetoric. Your language creates a climate which emboldens violent extremists." Could you elaborate on more what you mean by that tweet?
Look, I am sure that President Trump does not want anybody in this country to go around shooting other people. But what he has got to understand is that when you have language that is racist, that is virulently anti-immigrant, there are mentally unstable people in this country who see that as a sign to do terrible, terrible things. So I think the president has got to stop that racism and that xenophobia immediately. Second of all, Jake, I think the issue of the moment is whether the NRA will continue to determine gun policy in America, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of the American people, gun owners and non-gun owners, want common sense gun safety legislation. So what I have asked Mitch McConnell, Republican leader of the Senate, bring us back to Washington, end the recess right now, and let us sit down and work on the kind of legislation that we need. The truth of the matter is the American people want to expand background checks. They want to end the so-called gun show loophole. They want to, in many cases, ban assault weapons. And my own view is we may want to be thinking about treating assault weapons the same way we treat machine guns today, having very strict license requirements for them. We want to make sure that we end the process by which people can legally walk into a gun show, buy all of the guns that they want, and then sell those guns to criminal elements. So there's a lot to be worked on. But I think the American people are sick and tired of the NRA determining gun policy in America.
As you know, machine guns in this country are very tightly regulated. It's almost impossible to get one. You really think that the United States Senate would vote for a measure that would make them as difficult to obtain, semi-automatic assault rifles, as difficult to obtain as machine guns?
Jake, here is the fact. There are somewhere between 5 to 10 million assault weapons on the streets of America today. That is more, unbelievably, than the United States military has. So what we need to do is to sit down together and determine, for a start, clearly, I think, no more sale and distribution of assault weapons, and then figure out how we go forward at a time when, you know, it doesn't give me a good feeling to say this, but we all know it to be true. There are thousands of people in this country, in every state in America, who are either suicidal or homicidal. That is the sad reality of mental health in America today. And when you have hundreds of millions of guns out there, 5 to 10 million assault weapons, that is not a good mix. That's not a good combination. So we need to do some bold thinking, but essentially do what the American people want, not what the NRA wants.
CNN has learned that a Twitter account linked to the suspected terrorist in El Paso was sharing and retweeting some of President Trump's tweets and postings about the border wall. Now, President Trump has condemned the shooting, and if that so-called manifesto that's screed by the accused shooter was his, when I believe law enforcement says they think it is his, he does say, "I felt this way long before President Trump." But given that, what do you make of the fact that he was retweeting some of President Trump's tweets about the wall and such?
Look, I mean, clearly, Donald Trump does not want anybody shooting down innocent people. You know, Trump and I disagree on everything, but I'm not going to suggest to you for 1 second that that is what Trump wants. But what he has to understand in a nation where you have many, many thousands of people who are mentally unstable, that when you talk about invasions and hordes of people, and when you talk about Mexicans as criminals and rapists and the country under siege, you have unstable people who are going to see that as a sign that they have got to take up arms and do the horrific things that we just saw in El Paso. So look, bottom line is, if there is any silver lining in this horrible, horrible, horrible period in American history, it is that all of us, conservatives, progressives, Republicans, Democrats, independents, have got to come together and think our way through this. But the bottom line is the NRA is way, way, way out of touch with where the American people are on the issue of gun safety. Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump have got to stand up to the NRA, and let's sit down and figure out a path forward that protects the American people. Now, you know, one of the things, Jake, that bothers me so much is that you got kids who will soon be going back to school. And these kids are traumatized by these events. They're worried that when they go into a school, which should be a place of learning, a place where kids enjoying each other, and now they're frightened. So don't underestimate the trauma that this has on children and all Americans. This is a major, major issue, and we have got to come together to resolve it.
One of your 2020 rivals, Congressman Beto O'Rourke, told me this morning that he believes President Trump is a white supremacist or a white nationalist. Do you agree?
I do. Look, and it gives me no pleasure to say this, but I think all of the evidence out there suggests that we have a president who is a racist, who is a xenophobe, who appeals and is trying to appeal to white nationalism. And, you know, it breaks my heart to have to say that this is the person we have who is President of the United States.